Brandon Arnold's the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Been with us before. You see him on Fox News and Fox Business and Politico and The Hill and many other publications across the country. Brandon, always appreciate your input, and thanks for joining us. Let me tap into your wisdom because Congress is coming back from Easter recess in the coming weeks. They're going to be talking about putting some meat on that budget structure that they passed the other day, but there's a lot of hard work and the difficult decisions to be made. What do you make of it, sir?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I would say buckle up. It's going to be an interesting several weeks here before Congress wraps up for the Memorial Day recess. It's about a 3-week period. And I think Congressman Roy has it right in so many ways. You know, if we're going to tackle this major tax bill, we also need to be looking at the broader fiscal picture here. Spending is up dramatically since the pandemic. We're spending about 23% of GDP on the federal government right now. And to put that in kind of context, that is the highest it's been, with the exception, of course, of the pandemic and the financial crisis. It's the highest it's been since 1946. So if we can't start to drive that deficit down while we have Republicans controlling both chambers of Congress and the White House, when are we ever going to get a handle on their national debt crisis?
Well, Elon Musk has been getting some attention with his Doge efforts. That's got to be a significant accomplishment just in and of itself, slimming down the federal government workforce and identifying some things. What's your outlook in terms of possibly not in the longer term, which would be typical, but maybe in the shorter term? Can we expect some of those types of ideas tapped into during this process?
Yeah, I think so. I think Doge is an important piece of the puzzle, but of course they can't do it on their own. And they've uncovered a ton of waste, of fraud and abuse within the federal government. They're putting a package of cuts before Congress. Should be as soon as next week. It's $9 billion, which is a lot of money for all of us, of course, but $9 billion, we're looking at a $2 trillion deficit this year. So, yes, I'm in support of anything that starts to move in the right direction here of leaner government, of getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. But it's pretty clear that Doge can't do this on its own. Congress and Doge and the White House and everybody need to be rowing in the same direction. And we need to make sure that when Doge does uncover these fraudulent wastes of taxpayer resources, that they are locked in by Congress, that we don't just remove them by Doge and then have a court overturn those cuts or have a future administration put those federal employees back where they were playing their Wordle or whatever when they ought to be working. We need to make sure that we are making long-standing, more durable reductions in the federal government.
Brandon, Lynn Woolley here. I'm looking at the U.S. national debt clock right now, and it's ticking right along. We're at $36,763,273,100, and well, it's moving faster than I can count it. So we're at $36.7 trillion. I have a two-part question for you. Part A, do Democrats realize the importance of the national debt and how it can destroy a civilization? Part B to the question, do Republicans realize the importance of the national debt?
Yeah, those are great questions. And that national debt clock, that's better than a cup of coffee. They'll wake you up and scare the bejesus out of you in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, I think there is lip service paid by both parties to the importance of driving down debt. Unfortunately, most of the people, and there's certainly exceptions to this, and Chip Roy, I would say, is one of the exceptions, there aren't that many people that have the steel in their spines to actually do something about it. Democrats keep just getting out there and talking about, well, we got this enormous debt, we need to raise taxes. And of course, you do get some more revenue, but you also slow down the economy, you reduce the number of jobs, and you create long-standing problems. As I pointed out earlier, the problem right now facing our government is the fact that spending was ratcheted up. It has been over the years, but particularly during the pandemic, we ratcheted up spending. Taxes have been pretty level, even despite the fact that Democrats like to decry the Trump tax cuts of 2017 as creating this enormous sea of red ink. Tax collections are pretty much at historical averages here. It's spending that's the problem there. Yes. And most Democrats don't recognize that.
Brandon, I want to ask you a hypothetical.
Oh, he's continuing on there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Sorry. Please go ahead.
I want to ask a hypothetical because I think the only questions that are interesting and newsworthy are hypothetical. And that question is, we're talking about this all the time now. Chip Roy brings it up constantly. As Jim said, we just talked with Chip. We talked about this again. It's on every newscast. We say Republicans and Democrats give lip service to it. Doge has brought this all to the forefront. What is our national debt going to look like in 10 years, in 20 years?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. And right now, I think we're at such a critical juncture because, again, we have the capability. We have Doge. We have a president that says he wants to move toward a balanced budget. We have people like Chip Roy and Jody Arrington, other great, not just Texas members, but we have a lot of great folks across the country that are saying this is a crisis. We are in a crisis situation here. The question is, are we going to do something about it? It's a lot easier to cut taxes, and I love cutting taxes. It's a lot easier to cut taxes than it is to cut spending. There's no reason why Republicans who have campaigned, the vast majority of Republicans have campaigned for decades, if not longer, on the need to reduce the size of government. I love cutting taxes, but cutting taxes does not reduce the size of government. Cutting spending does. So if we can't get this done right now, in this window here where we're tackling this reconciliation bill, at a time when Doge is doing the important work that it's doing, I'm really fearful for the state of our country, fiscally speaking, as we hand off the reins to our children and grandchildren down the road.
All right, folks, we're visiting with Brandon Arnold, the Executive Vice President of the National Taxpayers Union. Check him out at ntu.org. Brandon, I love your point there. We don't have a revenue problem and a taxing problem. We got a spending problem. Coming up here, I know you're an expert on this, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017 that my friend Kevin Brady and Donald Trump and others passed back and has benefited us to this day. Steve Moore is on our show frequently, and a good friend has been harping on this, as have you. Is that one of the most important things we need to get done here to keep the economy going, and will there be an increased focus on it?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so much of that bill just did wonders for the economy, but so much of it is going to expire at the end of this year. So we need to renew that because getting ourselves out of this debt crisis it's about cutting spending, but it's also about sustaining economic growth and creating more economic growth. And that's where the tax bill comes into play. You know, I think this will help get our economy back on track along with the deregulatory efforts that are being implemented by this administration. So, yeah, it's critically important to not just get a tax bill done that extends a lot of what was in 2017 in that bill, but to also build upon that. Let's create some more growth. Let's make sure we're incentivizing American companies to conduct research and development on U.S. soil or to expand factories and grow the economy. Let's make sure that we have a tax code that encourages that. Right now, unfortunately, some of those provisions are already rolling off the books and they're starting to penalize American companies, and that really gives a leg up to China and our international competitors, and we can't allow that to happen.
Is the Senate going to be a problem in getting those tax cuts done?
My evergreen response there, I love the Senate, but they're always a problem for getting things done. They move slowly and deliberately, God bless them. But yes, it is going to be a challenge. And I think it's less of a problem on the tax front, but more of a problem on the spending front, because we are doing this together. We are combining the tax provisions, the spending cuts, improving border security, improving our energy generation here in this country. We're doing that all simultaneously. Mm-hmm. And if you can't do it all collectively, then I think this entire package falls apart. And I think where the Senate is going to have some problems is on the spending cuts. They've already indicated, for instance, all the green energy stuff that Biden passed. There's been some hesitation by some Republicans on scaling that back, and I think that's a problem. Touching important programs like Medicaid, yes, we need to protect those that are most vulnerable, but we can still get rid of a lot of the waste and abuse within the Medicaid system, ensure that the benefits are only going to those people who actually deserve them, and save a lot of money in the process. But some people get very squeamish there, and that's going to be a problem for sure.
Well, as we've talked about on the show this morning, some of the blue states use Medicare as a way to give money to illegal immigrants and take care of all of their health care. I want to ask you one final question because we're just about out of time, and that is, what do you make of all the state, local, school district, municipal county debt that has been building up in all 50 states to the point of where that's almost as debilitating as the national debt.
Yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem. And what's happened so often in the past is states have become, and to some extent municipalities have become addicted to federal dollars. We saw that especially during the pandemic, but it predates the pandemic. Too much of a state budget comes from the federal government. States need to be self-sufficient. Municipalities need to be self-sufficient because those federal dollars are going to flow sometimes and not other times. We need to have more independence. We need to have more local control, state control over things like education and law enforcement and so forth. That has changed, and that has made these states and localities more vulnerable to shifts in federal policy that has created budgetary gaps for so many states. So more independence, I think, more federalism, I think will help address that problem.
All right. We wish we could solve all the problems on the radio, but some of the people in Congress have to do some of the heavy lifting. Brandon Arnold, Executive Vice President, National Taxpayers Union. Thank you for being with us, and come back soon.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Talk